You're just a cheap knockoff. I'm the upgrade.
What's going on, guys? LoganJYA here with a bit of a different deck profile this time around. For those of you who've been fans of this channel for a very long time will remember that before I played Drytron, I used to play a lot of Adamancipator, and you know what? The deck has taken some serious beatings in terms of the ban list, but there is still a cool way to play this deck, and I'm here to share it with you today. I've got some people I gotta give some shoutouts to. Check them out in the description down below, but I'm not going to preface this too much. Let's dive right into this Adamancipator deck profile with the test hand at the end just for you. Let's get into it. Alright guys, LoganJYA here, throwing it back with the Adamancipators. Even though it may be the inferior RNG deck right now in 2022 with tier elements on the rise, about to be tearing it up with the Ishizu cards, I have to tell you that this is a very, very fun deck that you can play that actually has a lot going for it in terms of being able to play through interruptions, play safely, and put up some pretty crazy boards while you're at it. Now, of course, does it play as well as it used to when Block Dragon was legal? Absolutely not. And I think a great argument could be made that health being hit is one of the hardest things for this deck to deal with. But you'd be surprised with what this deck can still do, and I'm recommending that you stick around to the end of the video so I can show you a demonstration test hand. And again, guys, don't forget, this deck is even more RNG reliant than tier elements, I would argue, so your end boards will vary. But what I'll show you at the end is one way to do it. You could literally just sit there and play solitaire with this deck for an hour and come up with a million different routes to get to pretty comparable boards. So, you know, play around with it, give it a try. At worst, it's a very, very fun, high ceiling combo deck, but at its best, it's got the ability to rip through not just meta decks, but rogue decks, and whatever you kind of come down to face off against, this deck has a good chance as a contender just because of how high the ceiling is. Alright, I've been blabbering for too much. Let's get into the profile. Alright, starting off with the monsters, the obvious stuff. Triple Researcher, Triple Seeker, and Triple Analyzer. Now, Researcher is obviously the best one because it's the most easy to special summon. Seeker is the, he's alright. And Analyzer is really only easy to special summon when you're going second, so you know. But at the same time, you have to max them all out because you want to see them. At worst, you can normal summon them if they don't have you're not meeting their condition to special summon. You're going to excavate through your deck as much as possible during your turn so you can reveal more rocks, continue to make your plays. And we're playing a lot of rocks, so the odds of you hitting are very, very high. And there's some really cool cards that we're able to leverage nowadays in this deck. But we're not actually done with the Adamancipator names. I just don't count this one with the little researchers and the, you know, the dudes. This one's just a rock, but it's a pretty darn good rock. What Dragite does, of course, in case you live in under a rock, it lets you draw a card when you special summon off a rock effect, which is pretty awesome. And at the same time, it's a water to let your Abyss Dweller be boosted by 500 attack points. How relevant is that? You'd be surprised. It actually does come up quite often. Moving on from there, triple copies of the Quakimeru Guardian Essential. This is the coolest thing about Adamancipators. It's what really lets you play through those monster hand traps, is this guy right here, Quakimeru Guardian. You hit him off any name, or you normal summon him and special summon Researcher. There's no better feeling in the world. It's absolutely legendary. Triple copies of the Quakimeru Supplier is a free extender. I can also search you a Quakimeru Guardian when it's special summoned. So you can hit this guy off an Adamancipator effect or special summon by his own effect and get a free search. It's pretty cool. You have to max it out though. Follow that up with triple copies of Doki Doki. Because of one of the other engines we're playing, which I'm sure you see in the title and the thumbnail, you will understand why I'm maxing out this card. It's a nice level 2 that gives us access to the entirety of our rock arsenal. Moving on from there though, another cool level 2 guy is this rock dude. His name is Cardaminoran. I'm just going to call him Hidden Gem, alright? I don't really know how to pronounce him, but I know he's absolutely insane. This card is so cool because it's a double summon. It lets you normal summon an earth or a water during your turn, in addition to your regular normal summon, which is great, by discarding him. So of course it sounds like a neg, but he makes up for it with the fact that he's an extender. You can summon him back from the graveyard, and obviously it being level 2 is good because we're playing the Sprights, baby. Yes, all Adamancipator duelists, all good Adamancipator duelists are doing this right now. It's because we kinda have to. What are we gonna do to replace Halki Firebrax, bring in an equally as powerful engine? Okay, it's not as strong as Halki, at least in terms of Adamancipator as a strategy, but Spright still has a lot to offer. At worst, it's a backup plan. At best, it's enabling your end board to go through the roof. And the thing I really want to shout out about the Spright engine, I'll show you the whole package. We're also playing 1 carrot, 1 red, and 1 jet, is that it solves one little problem that Adamancipator always has, has always had, and that is the fact that you actually get a little bit of interruption through things like Dark Ruler No More or Droplets, because your boards used to be very subjective to those types of interruptions and big board breakers. At worst now, you can either have a starter or a smashers lined up to back up your plan and keep yourself alive, keep yourself kicking in the game. Listen, is it great? No. But is it good? Yes, it's pretty good. And you're putting up some pretty crazy boards with this engine working in tandem with the Adamancipator cards. That's enough of that. That's all the monsters. Let's get into the spells, go through these real quick. Triple Tactics Talents maxed out. Oh my goodness. Your opponents are going to be burning off their hand traps, especially if they have two of them, want to get the Guardian out the way so their next one will be live. You can just throw down that Talents. You still got combo in your hand. Take a look at their hand, rip out another hand trap. Draw two if you need extenders. You already know why this card's good. It's also good as going second card because you can steal monsters, go for game. I don't need to explain Talents to you. In this list though, I think it's a really good choice. Maybe in some of the lists that I was watching before making this this deck profile, I was seeing people playing Dark Ruler No More in this slot. I think that's good, but I don't know if I'd be doing it right now, alright? So take it with a grain of salt. I'm choosing to go with Triple Tax in this slot. I'm also playing 2 Ready Fusion and 1 Instant Fusion just as free extenders. You want me to be honest? It's kind of mid. Like, I'm only playing 1 target for it right now, and it's kind of to be a bridge between both engines. I can't remember the name of it. It's the level 2 tuner vanilla. So it's good. It's definitely a good thing to have access to, but playing 3 of this, I think it's a little excessive unless I was playing another target. Like, I was thinking about maybe it'd be worthwhile to play a level 4. So when we get to the extra deck, if you guys see a slot that could switch for a level 4 target, I think there'd be more value to these cards. But at worst, they're just free extenders, which is a pretty cool thing. Moving on from there, I got 2 copies of Adamancipator Signs and 1 Monster Reborn. I'm lumping them together because they kind of do the same thing. They're Reborn cards, but the Signs is kind of cool because if you bring back an Adamancipator, you actually get to stack your deck with a rock monster to guarantee your next hit is going through. And then finally, for the main deck, round things out with 1 starter and 1 smashers. Now I'm choosing to play the starter even though it's not necessarily ideal in this build, because sometimes you need to play Spright as a backup plan, and that means searching the starter off of the jet can come up. Now another thing I'm thinking about doing is boosting up the jet to 2 copies maybe, but you can still bring back jet with elf, so it's like not necessarily needed. I think that the package is at a pretty good place right now. In fact, some would probably argue it's a little big. But usually with the Spright engine, you're really going to want to be turboing out that Spright Red, because when you summon the Spright Red, it's just another means of a safety net. That's how I like to think about it. So that's why you're maxing out the blue, because it makes it automatically live red for the rest of your combo, if that wasn't obvious. Let's move on to the extra deck. We were playing 1 of each of the Adamancipators against Shoutout Brio for this awesome artwork, extended art wrap tight. This was one of my favorite ones she ever did for me, and it was so old, but it's still so cool. 1 Leonite to go along with it. I remember not playing this guy way back in the day when I used to play this, if you see my old profiles, but we got to bring this guy in because he's more important now than ever. Spright Elf is a fire. You can put it in the grave after detaching it off of Gigantic, and that's going to make this guy live to be a monster reborn on your opponent's turn, which means you get to use Quackimero Guardian more than 1 time. It's pretty cool thing that you have to keep in mind, and it makes it worth playing this card. You can also rip things like additional Adamancipator names or Adamancipator Signs off of your deck with its effect to excavate. Moving on from there, the 1 Dragite. This is one of the best removal cards. It's a non-targeting bounce. It's pretty good. Just you hope you hit rocks with it. And it also has a built-in spell and trap negate, which is pretty good. And a 3K body. Not going to scoff at that. Moving on from there, we got the 1 Herald of the Arclight. This card is so easy to make. I don't even think I need to explain it to you. The 1 copy of the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. I'm choosing to play this over Boral Savage because the Link lineup is a little bit smaller here. With no Hulk, it's a lot harder to make maximum use out of the Boral Savage. In fact, in general, that card is just a lot more lackluster nowadays. Moving on from there, the 1 Barome de Fleur. Now, this one can be a reach to make. The easiest way to make it usually is with Raptite and an Analyzer, or Raptite, a level 2 tuner, and another level 2 monster is usually how you're going to summon Barome. Of course, it's an Omni Negate, it's a Reborn, it's got a lot going for it, it's a pop. It's going to be one of your main going second plays when you're starting to work your way through a board, definitely. So it's essential to play, but don't be surprised if you're not always ending on this card, because it is a little bit more of a reach. It's not as easy as it is to summon in this deck as it may be in some other decks. Of course, for the Ready Fusion, the Instant Fusion, we got the level 2 tuner vanilla guy. I'm not even going to bother to say its name. Just look at it. You can see what it is. You can read it. If you need to find on TCG Player, there you go. Moving on from there into the Exceeds. Another cool thing about Adamancipator is you get to play every extra deck summoning mechanic pretty much. So we got Exceeds in here, and of course we're playing Dweller, baby. Listen, you gotta hear me out on this one, guys. I'm talking real strategy here. Comes up in testing, comes up in real situations. Again, even though this is the most competitive deck, you could take it to a competitive event and do well, because because it still has such a high ceiling. Now, Dweller is going to be one of your main enablers when you're playing against things like tier elements, all right? It's so easy to end on this guy. You've got plenty of level 4s that your deck just craps out. If you can make a safe Dweller backed up with like a Spright red, that's a win in my book, you know? Like backing up a Dweller with a Spright red and a Guardian. That sounds like a great board to me. Now, another thing I want to point out, and I thought about this while I was putting together this list for this profile, is how the state of boards in this game has changed. It's not just about the board, it's about the interruptions. The thing that makes tier elements so crazy, especially with the Ishizu cards, is how it's playing on turn 0, how it's putting up these interruptions that aren't inherently on the board, making them easier to crack. Back in the day, Adamancipator would put up this fat board with like a bajillion negates, and that's what it'd be. You'll be staring down at Boral Savage, Appaloosa, IP Masquerena, all this crazy stuff, Herald of the Arclight, chilling on the board and be like, your opponent would be like, come at me, bro. And that's not really what the game looks like anymore. So that's why this deck is a little bit of a relic from the past. We're still trying to do that. Even Drytron takes a different form in the way that it puts up interruptions. You're putting a lot of them front-loaded into this one monster. But if that monster gets stopped, you've got the backup plans on lock always. This deck is a little bit different. We're still putting up the big board and crossing our arms, sitting across from the opponent. So we have to adapt with the times, and Dweller is one of the ways that lets us do that and really counter one of those main threatening strategies. If you really, really want it to be safe, you can summon the Dweller early too. Just all things to think about. I'm pointing it out for you guys, but yes, playing the Dweller is very important now, and it's going to be very important post-Mama, so stay ready. The 1 Gallon Granite, sometimes you have to use this to search Researcher to get your plays started, or you want to use it to continue your plays. This card is a lot worse now, though, because you have to use it to make Link 2, and that Link 2 can not be Hulk anymore. Otherwise, you're just going to have this guy sitting on your board. So make sure you have a use for him in mind while you're summoning him. Moving on from there into the Spright package, the 1 Gigantic Spright. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of times you're using the 2 level 2s at the end of your combo to get you into the Spright package. Line up that Smashers to back up your board. So that's why he's there, and 2 Elf to go along with it. A key end board piece, an extender, all this wonderful stuff. This card will be banned someday, guaranteed. On top of that, for end board pieces, we got IP Masquerena, and then Avermax, and then Appaloosa. Now, if you guys go back and watch my older deck profiles on Adamancipators, you'll probably see me summoning Appo a lot during the first turn combos. Nowadays, not as much. I'd say we line it up more so for the IP plays than we would normally back in the day, right? So we don't have as much free fodder as we did when we had the Prank Kids engine and the Halki Fibrax. So more so you're lining this up with those IP plays. And that all kind of goes back into what I was saying about how building boards is taking a very different form nowadays. But that's the extra deck. Let me show you guys the side deck real quick. I'm just going to say this. These are basically just your DD Crows for this format. We already know them. The best still boys are Bing chilling here. We got Magna Mutt or Magna Nut, whatever you want to call them, chilling with the Dark Worm. 4 copies of DD Crow that also double as big bodies or as extenders. You are still playing some dark targets in your deck that you can take advantage of, but more oftentimes than not, you're using this for its DD Crow effect. Moving on from there, triple copies of Ghost Bell. Again, we have to stay ready. Post-Mama, pre-Mama, we got to be ready, all right? Even though we're not hurt as bad by the bestial monsters, Ghost Bell is still one of the best hand traps that you can play, hands down right now. I would argue right now, far better than Ash. Honestly, let me know if you disagree in the comments. Moving on from there, a time strategy card. Haven't had one of these in the side deck in a long time because obviously I play Drytron. We've got a built-in time win con. But since we are playing the Spright cards, there's no reason not to leverage the red Resonator. It's so easy to make a Gigantic. If you find yourself in a time situation where it's like, oh shoot, I don't want to take a risk, you bring in the Resonator, you use his effect, you gain life, you win the match in game 3. That's just how you do it, baby. So yeah, we stay ready on that. And then spells, triple copies of Dark Ruler no more. I will still play them in the side, baby, because there are things like barrier statues that exist that we have to deal with. There's also still exist some build-a-board decks where Dark Ruler is 100% clutch and they can't dodge it super effectively. Then we got 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone to knock out those back row decks and those Mystic Mines. We have, fortunately enough, a main deck out in the form of Smashers to deal with the Mystic Mine, although it is only 1. It is theoretically searchable through your usual main combo lines. And wrapping things out with 2 copies of Evenly Matched. You know, do I wish it could be at 3? Yes, but I was trying to make room for a lot of things in here. So let me know what you guys think about this build, but we're not done with the video yet. I think I owe you guys at least a fun little test hand. Let's see how the deck does. Let's get into it. All right, guys, to round out this deck profile, I'm going to give you guys a test hand, just like we used to do back in the day, and show you guys what Adamancipators at this current point in time can do. Even though it is the inferior RNG deck compared to tier elements, it still can put up some crazy boards, and
hopefully I'll be able to display that for you right now. Give it a good final cut. Let's see what we're opening. We got Instant, Carrot, Reborn, Seeker, and Doki. So overall, a pretty medium hand, but there's a lot we can do with it. So I'm going to choose to play this out. Let's just rock and roll right into it. We're going to normal summon that Doki, and I'm going to fire off its effect from the get-go. If we were to get Imperm, Ashed, Veilered, whatever the heck on this Doki, it's not the end of the world because we still have the Reborn to climb ourselves out of it, and we would have the Instant Fusion enabling Spright plays. Also, if we really wanted to be smart, we would have summoned that Carrot first, just to play around Imperm, just to be safe. So, you know, if they did have an Imperm, just sack that Doki, and you're still resolving it to special summon from deck. So I'm actually going to summon out another copy of Seeker. It does have to be in attack position for Doki, and we can kind of continue to play on from here. So again, we'll give it another final cut like so, and we'll fire off that Seeker effect. We're looking for a Guardian or a Supplier, I would say. But a Blue Rock's not bad either. I'll definitely take a Blue Rock. We got another blue thing in the form of Spright Blue, but we're going to special summon out that Blue Rock right now and give ourselves a free draw. Here we go. Get a Supplier. That's pretty juicy. So let me take a quick think here. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to line up our first Omni Negate in the form of Herald of the Arclight, and since we did have one of our guys go to the grave, that'll trigger Supplier's effect in hand to special summon, and then we can use Supplier's effect to search out a Guardian from deck for free. So we are lining ourselves up with additional advantage, and we've got ourselves an Omni Negate on lock. And from here, what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to hold that Reborn as long as possible, and I'm actually going to go for Instant Fusion next. So I'll pay 1,000, and I'll bring out our little level 2 tuner guy, like so, and I'll use it and the Supplier to go into our Raptite next. So we'll put the Raptite over here on the far right, and I'll use Raptite's effect. Let's excavate 5. I think we're all shuffled up from earlier, so let's see what we got. Talents, Anal, Blue Guy, Ready Fusion, and a Talents again. So give me that Analyzer. Yes, sir. So we'll summon him out, and we have yet to use his effect, which is quite nice. So what I'm actually going to do in this situation is I'm going to take, since we need to make room anyway, I'm going to take the Analyzer and the Raptite and turn them into a Barone the Floor a little bit early, right here, like so. Because since we have that Reborn, this could also be Adamancipator Signs, it wouldn't really make a damn difference, and I'm going to use that to summon back the Analyzer. Now, we are in a bit of a similar situation here as far as room goes, but that's okay. At this point, given that we have 2 negates locked and loaded, I will use the Dragite and the Carrot to go into a Spright Elf on the top, which is going to be our targeting protection, and we'll see if we can hit a level 4 off of that Analyzer. So let's go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Another Blue Rock, very awesome. We'll not be able to use its effect for the draw since we already used it this turn, but we will be able to line that up for our Dweller, which I think will be our next step. So I'll overlay these 2 guys into Dweller, but we are not done yet. The next thing we're going to do is use that Spright Elf's effect to bring back any level 2 from the grave. That could be Seeker, or that could be Carrot. In this situation, let's go with the Seeker, and then I'll overlay it with the Spright Elf like so, and we can summon ourselves a Gigantic Spright on the top, use his effect. I am going to summon out Spright Blue. We can use Blue's effect to search, giving us Spright Jet, and then we'll use Jet's effect to grab Smashers. There it is. Beautiful. So we are locked and loaded, lined up for glory right now, and this is quite the impeccable board. So I'm going to take these guys off the top, link them off into the second copy of Spright Elf, setting ourselves up for success. It depends who you want to have the targeting protection. Definitely the Dweller, so since we set it up like that, that's where I'm going to keep them. We'll set that Smashers down into the back row, and let's do, as I always like to do, a little bit of an inventory here of our interruptions going into the opponent's turn. So, tier elements, not going to have a fun time if they're facing off against this. Not only do we have 2 Omni Negates in the form of Barone and Herald of the Arclight, we've got a Spright Smashers as a backup plan in case of Dark Ruler no more. We've got the Abyss Dweller locking them out, which will definitely trigger in the standby phase. And we've got the Spright Elf with the ability to bring back that blue, which can search us, a Carrot for follow-up. It is a nice setup. But I do have to flag for you guys before we wrap up this video that there are an infinite number of end boards that you can put up with Adamancipators. And that's one of the really fun things about playing this deck, is that your results will vary. It's not may vary, they will vary. It depends on your excavates, it depends on your opening hand, but you can do a heck of a lot of stuff with this deck. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, dislike if you dislike, and that's all I got for you today. LoganJYA signing off. Have a great day, and I will see you chumps later. Peace.